Let's talk about a mistake, a really costly one that businesses make all the time, throwing money at problems that just never seem to go away. Today, we're going to dig into a powerful framework from expert Guy W. Wallace that gets to the real root of the issue. And trust me, it's probably not what you think.
You've been there, right? A super important project is just going off the rails. Deadlines are being missed, the quality's dipping, and everybody's in a panic. So what's that one fix you always hear from management first?
Yep, there it is, the old classic. Let's get them some training. It sounds so straightforward, doesn't it? Just send them all to a class for a day and poof, problem solved. But what if that default answer isn't just wrong? What if it's actually a massive, expensive blunder?
So this knee-jerk reaction, this go-to solution for every performance problem, well, we can call that the training trap. It's such an easy assumption to make, but honestly, most of the time it completely misses the point.
And here is the number that should make every single manager pause. According to Wallace's research, training can only fix about 20% of performance issues. Let that sink in. That means a whopping 80% of the time, the real problem is something else entirely.
I mean, think of it like this. You would never want a doctor to schedule you for major surgery based on a wild guess, right? Of course not. Yet when we jump straight to training, that's exactly what we're doing. Prescribing a very expensive solution without a proper diagnosis. It's pretty much a guarantee for a negative return on investment.
Okay, so if training isn't the magic bullet, how in the world do we find the real problem? Well, we need better tools for diagnosis. We need to go beyond some of the classic methods you might already know.
A lot of you have probably seen this before, the Ishikawa diagram, or the fishbone diagram. It's a classic for a reason. It's a great start for breaking down problems into categories like methods, machines, materials, but that fourth category, often called men or people, that's where it really falls short. The human variable is just so much more complex than a single box can capture.
And this is where Wallace's approach really shines. It gives us this high-resolution view. It splits that vague people problem into specific human asset enablers, things like, knowledge and skills, but also individual attributes and values. And just as critical, it gets into the environmental asset enablers. The quality of the data people get, the tools they have to use, and even the budget or consequences tied to their work.
All right, so how do we actually get our hands on this super detailed data? Well, it all starts with the first of two really powerful diagnostic tools. And this one is all about figuring out the gap between how things are now and how they should be.
Okay, here it is, the performance model. Now I know, it might look a little intense at first glance, but don't worry. Its purpose is actually super simple, to create a perfectly clear map of what master-level performance looks like, so we can spot exactly where the gaps are.
So step one, you have to define what good actually looks like. I'm not talking about vague goals here. We're talking about key outputs and measures. What are the specific, tangible, measurable things that a true master performer produces in this job? Because if you can't define it, you can't fix it. So once you know what a rockstar performance is, the next step is to get brutally honest and document the typical performance gaps. This is where you list out all the ways things are actually going wrong. Are forms getting filled out incorrectly? Are people making poor decisions with clients? You write down all the symptoms right here.
And now for the most critical step, the diagnosis. For every single one of those gaps, you have to identify the probable cause. And the model makes you categorize it. Is it a DE, a deficiency in the environment, like having bad data or terrible tools? Is it a DK, a deficiency in knowledge or skill? That's the one place where training might actually be the answer. Or is it a DI, a mismatch with an individual's personal attributes or values for that specific role? See? Diagnosis before prescription.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the gaps in what people are doing. Now we have to flip the coin and get a clear picture of what it actually takes for someone to do the job right in the first place. And that brings us to the second key diagnostic tool.
This right here is the enabling matrix. You can think of it like this. If the performance model defines what success looks like, this tool creates a detailed checklist of everything a person needs to achieve that success.
And just look at how deep this goes. We're talking so much more than just knowledge and skills. This analysis inventories 5 whole categories of human requirements: physical, intellectual, psychological, personal values, and then knowledge and skills. This gives you a complete 360-degree view of the ideal person for any role.
And this leads us to a really, really important distinction.
There's performance competence. That's the goal, the actual results you want. And then there's enabler competence, like having a specific skill. That's just the means to get to the goal. Way too many companies get obsessed with the means, ticking off training boxes, and they totally lose sight of the only thing that actually matters, performance.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. We've used these incredible tools to gather super specific data about what's going wrong and what people need to succeed. So now what? Well, all that data becomes the blueprint for building an entire support system across the whole company.
First up, this data powers what are called the Human Asset Management Systems, or HAMS for short. Think of all your core HR functions. Now, instead of using some generic job description, your recruiting team knows the exact attributes to look for. Your performance management system can measure against what really drives results, not just some vague competencies. It makes the entire people side of the business data-driven.
But here's the thing. It's not just an HR thing. This data also fixes the environmental asset management systems, or EAMS. This is literally everything else that surrounds an employee. The tools they use, the data they get, the budget they have, the company culture. This is that 80% of the puzzle that training could never, ever touch. It's about fixing the system so that good people can actually do good work.
Which really brings us to the core lesson here in this fantastic quote from Guy W. Wallace himself. Beware generic data sets. If they would work just as well for your competitors as for you, they will not get you where you need to be. Your competitive edge doesn't come from some off-the-shelf, one-size-fits-all solution. It comes from doing the hard work of diagnosing your unique performance needs.
So let me leave you with this question to take back to work with you. What's one problem your company is trying to solve with training right now that just maybe needs a completely different diagnosis? Thinking about that could end up saving you a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money.